Written in 1513 by Niccolò Machiavelli and published posthumously in 1532, The Prince is one of the most influential political treatises of all time. The book is addressed to Lorenzo de' Medici, the ruler of Florence, and provides advice on how a ruler, often referred to as a prince, can gain and maintain political power. Machiavelli's advice is blunt, often ruthless, and grounded in the realities of political life as he observed them during the turbulent times of Renaissance Italy. The book is divided into 26 chapters, each dealing with different aspects of ruling and power, and together they form a blueprint for how a ruler should act in order to be successful in governing. Chapter 1 to 2, The Nature of Principalities. The book opens with a brief dedication to Lorenzo de' Medici, whom Machiavelli refers to as magnificent. Machiavelli humbly offers the book to Lorenzo as a gift, and he expresses his desire to contribute to Lorenzo's success by providing practical advice drawn from his own experience and study of history. With that, Machiavelli begins his discourse on the nature of principalities. In the first chapters, Machiavelli distinguishes between different types of principalities or states and explains how they can be acquired. Principalities, he says, are either hereditary, where power is passed down from father to son, or new, acquired either through personal merit or fortune, or given by others. He emphasizes that ruling a hereditary principality is easier than ruling a new one because people are already accustomed to the ruling family. However, a new prince must navigate various challenges, as the people may resist new authority or prefer their former rulers. Chapter 3, The Challenges of Governing New Territories. Machiavelli explains that when a prince conquers new territory that is similar in language and customs to his own state, it is relatively easy to govern, especially if the former rulers are eliminated. However, when the territories are culturally different, the prince must either go and live in the new territory to maintain control, or set up colonies. Colonies, Machiavelli argues, are cheap and effective because they displace only a small portion of the population, and those who are displaced are unable to pose a significant threat. Machiavelli advises that a prince must be careful to avoid making enemies when establishing control over new territories. If a prince is too harsh, he may alienate the people. On the other hand, if he is too lenient, he may lose control. He also introduces the idea that it is better to be feared than loved, a theme that will resurface later in the text. Chapter 4 to 5, How to Rule Conquered States. In these chapters, Machiavelli offers insight into ruling territories that have long had their own governments. For territories that have been governed by their own laws and institutions, Machiavelli outlines 3 options for maintaining control. Destroy the state completely, go live in the territory and personally govern it. Allow the state to retain its laws but appoint a loyal ruling class. Of these, Machiavelli favors the first option, destroying the state, as it eliminates the possibility of rebellion and any lingering attachment the people may have to their former rulers. Chapters 6 to 9, Different Paths to Power. Machiavelli explores the various ways in which individuals can come to power, including through virtue, fortune, or the favor of others. He distinguishes between princes who rise through their own ability and merit, and those who rise through fortune or the aid of powerful individuals. He admires rulers like Moses, Cyrus, Romulus, and Theseus, who rose to power through their own capabilities. He praises their boldness, vision, and ability to create lasting institutions. Machiavelli believes that fortune may help a prince gain power, but maintaining it requires skill and prudence. A ruler must not rely solely on luck, as fortune is fickle and can turn against even the most fortunate leaders. In Chapter 7, he examines the example of Cesare Borgia, one of the most controversial figures of the Renaissance. Borgia rose to power thanks to the influence of his father, Pope Alexander VI, but once in power, he used a combination of cunning, force, and strategic alliances to solidify his position. Machiavelli holds Borgia up as an example of someone who knew how to create his own luck and take decisive actions to consolidate his rule. Chapter 10, The Strength of a Prince's Territory. Here, Machiavelli discusses the importance of a prince's territory and its defenses. He advises that a prince should maintain a strong military and fortify his cities. However, Machiavelli also stresses that a well-defended city alone will not be enough if the prince does not have the loyalty of his subjects. A ruler who is hated will have little chance of withstanding a siege, as his people may betray him to the enemy. Machiavelli introduces the idea of relying on the goodwill of the people. He believes that if a prince can win the hearts of his subjects, they will support him even in the toughest of times. But if he is hated, no fortifications will protect him. Chapter 11 to 14, Ecclesiastical Principalities and Military Strategy. In Chapter 11, Machiavelli briefly discusses ecclesiastical principalities, or states governed by the church. He explains that these are unique in that they are maintained by religious power, not through military strength or political maneuvering. He points out that ecclesiastical states are almost impossible to lose because they are upheld by the belief in divine authority, not human laws or governance. In chapters 12 to 14, Machiavelli shifts his focus to military matters. He argues that a prince must always be prepared for war, even in times of peace. He warns against the use of mercenaries or auxiliary forces, armies hired from outside the state, because they are unreliable and self-interested. Mercenaries, he writes, will abandon a prince as soon as the tide turns, while auxiliary forces may prove disloyal or turn against the prince. Instead, Machiavelli advocates for a prince to maintain his own citizen army. A ruler who relies on his own people will have more control and a stronger defense, as the citizens will fight to protect their own land. He also emphasizes the importance of military training and the need for a prince to understand warfare intimately. Chapter 15 to 18, The Virtues and Vices of a Prince. Machiavelli's discussion of virtues and vices is one of the most well-known and controversial sections of The Prince. Here he turns traditional notions of morality on their head, arguing that a prince must be willing to engage in immoral behavior if it is necessary to maintain power. Machiavelli does not advise princes to be evil for the sake of being evil, but rather to recognize that the ends justify the means in the brutal world of politics. He famously states that it is better for a prince to be feared than loved, though he cautions against being hated. A ruler who is feared will command respect and obedience, but one who is hated risks rebellion and betrayal. Machiavelli advises that a prince should be careful to avoid unnecessary cruelty, but must not shy away from decisive action when the situation calls for it. Machiavelli also discusses the importance of deception. He argues that a successful prince must be like both a lion, strong and powerful, and a fox, cunning and clever. A prince must know when to keep promises and when to break them, especially when breaking promises serves the interests of the state. Machiavelli suggests that most men are easily deceived, and a prince who masters the art of deception will have a significant advantage. Chapter 19 to 21, Avoiding Hatred and Earning Esteem. In these chapters, Machiavelli advises princes on how to maintain their rule by avoiding hatred and earning the respect of their people. He stresses that a prince should strive to be respected and admired by both the nobles and the common people. He must balance the interests of both groups to avoid alienating either one. A ruler must also be cautious about appearing indecisive or weak. Machiavelli explains that a prince who appears weak will be scorned by his subjects, while one who is decisive and strong will be respected. Furthermore, a prince must maintain a good reputation by avoiding unnecessary cruelty and by rewarding loyal followers. Machiavelli also discusses how a prince should conduct himself in public and handle foreign affairs. He advises that a ruler should appear generous, merciful, and honest when it serves his purposes, but must always be prepared to act in his own interest behind the scenes. A prince must also be able to adapt to changing circumstances, as rigidity in politics can lead to failure. Chapter 22 to 25, Choosing Advisors and the Role of Fortune. In these chapters, Machiavelli explores the importance of choosing wise advisors and understanding the role of fortune in political success. He emphasizes that a prince must be able to discern the advice of loyal and competent advisors from that of flatterers who seek only personal gain. A prince should surround himself with men who will speak the truth, even when it is difficult to hear, and he must be careful not to let his own ego cloud his judgment. Machiavelli also returns to the theme of fortune, which he describes as a force that controls half of human affairs, with the other half being subject to human free will. He compares fortune to a river that can flood and destroy everything in its path, but with foresight and preparation, a wise ruler can build dams and fortifications to mitigate the damage. While a prince cannot control fortune entirely, he can take measures to prepare for its changes and minimize its impact on his rule. Chapter 26: A Call to Action. In the final chapter, Machiavelli makes a passionate plea to Lorenzo de' Medici, urging him to unite Italy under his rule and free it from foreign domination. Italy, at the time, was divided into multiple city-states and was subject to frequent invasions by foreign powers such as France, Spain, and the Holy Roman Empire. Machiavelli sees in Lorenzo the potential to become the savior of Italy and to establish a new era of peace and stability. Machiavelli ends the book with a call to action, encouraging Lorenzo to seize the moment and make history by following the principles laid out in The Prince. He believes that with bold leadership, Italy can rise from its fractured state and become a great power once again. Conclusion: The legacy of The Prince. In its entirety, The Prince is a guide to power, how to acquire it, how to maintain it, and how to use it effectively. Through a series of examples from history and his own experiences, Machiavelli offers practical advice to rulers, often advocating for cunning, ruthlessness, and pragmatism over idealism and morality. His view of human nature is cynical, but his insights into politics and power dynamics remain relevant even centuries after the book was written. Machiavelli's work, though controversial, has had a profound influence on political thought and continues to be studied by leaders, scholars, and strategists around the world. The Prince serves as a timeless reminder that in the cutthroat world of politics, survival often depends on adaptability, decisiveness, and a willingness to do whatever it takes to succeed.